Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I recently beat Uncharted 3, and instead of making an impressions video on that game itself, I figured I might as well do a discussion on the entire series just because Uncharted 3 was the last game that I had to beat. So I might as well talk about all the games and give my thoughts. And the way I'm going to do this, I'm gonna talk briefly about each game, and I'm gonna start talking about my least favorite Uncharted game, and go work my way up to my favorite game in the series. So, with that being said, my least favorite Uncharted game is the first one, Drake's Fortune, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game, but I think for obvious reason it's my least favorite. It's because it was the first in the series. Naughty Dog, they were still trying to work out the whole third-person shooter genre, and they did it really well because this game is actually very influential in my opinion. It's one of the most I guess standout and influential games of this generation because of the just the cover up mechanics, the graphics, and that cinematic type of third person action that influenced a lot of games after its release. So a very important game, a very influential game in the medium, but when you compare it to the rest of the series, it lacks a little bit in terms of graphics, sound, storyline. All the other games have improved that upon. And like I said, it's not a bad game. It's just it was the first one, and a lot of things needed to be tweaked, and the environments were not very varied like in the next few entries. But nevertheless, a pretty good game. But it's my least favorite. Then I'm gonna move on to my next game, which is Uncharted 2, and this is a surprising choice actually because most Uncharted fans out there, I think, consider this to be their favorite in the series. I think the vast majority will agree with that statement. But for me, Uncharted 2, it was a vast improvement over the original one in terms of graphics and over-the-top cinematic action. The game just keeps you at the edge of your seat. But the main problem I had with Uncharted 2 is that towards the end of the game, and this is actually a critique of the entire series, towards the end of the game, they just throw you hundreds and hundreds of enemies. It's almost like because you're nearing the end of the game, they want to make it more challenging, which is understandable, but it's just unrealistic the amount of enemies they throw you. You kill a whole lot of them, and then you move to the next area and you have to rinse and repeat. You have to do the same thing, and it becomes repetitive, and it hurts the overall gameplay in my opinion. I think it hurts the game, unfortunately, and I just got a little bit tired towards the end of Uncharted 2. I just wanted to get the game finished with, but again, it's a great game. It dragged on a little bit towards the end, but the story is great, and it's a vast improvement over the original one. Another very cool part of Uncharted 2 is that it's the first game that introduced multiplayer, I believe, to the series. And I had a pretty good time actually playing the multiplayer, the online multiplayer portion of the game. Some pretty good, interesting game modes in there, and it was a very fun game. In fact, I got the platinum trophy for this game because I liked it so much. So with that being said, I'm gonna mention, I guess, my second favorite, in my second place finish, if you will, and I'm gonna go with Uncharted Golden Abyss for the PlayStation Vita. And I do have to say that Golden Abyss, perhaps in terms of gameplay, it's the best in the series. And I know a lot of people are gonna be surprised, but let me expand on that. This game right here, I think, because of the hardware limitations, I have to start by saying that Uncharted Golden Abyss is the most impressive handheld game I've ever played in my life. Like, visually speaking, it's amazing. It really forces the Vita to speed out all its power graphically. And with that being said, though, I think because the game is so visually impressive, that also created some technical limitations when it comes to the combat scenes. Not a whole lot of enemies on screen, which in my opinion is a blessing in disguise, because that's the one main critique that I have with the Uncharted series. The combat. I'm not. I just hate fighting 10, 15 enemies at a time, and then you kill all of them, and more come into the scene. And Golden Abyss, I think, had that technical limitation of being on a handheld system. So it was I guess a blessing in disguise. And I really enjoyed the combat in the game, because it's very it's very, I don't want to use the word monotonous, but it doesn't happen as often as the other games in the series, especially the first and the second one. These two games right here, the combat is endless, and it just drags on forever. Golden Abyss focuses more on exploration and platforming, which is excellent. I really enjoy that part of the game, and just looking for treasure, and the platforming segments, even though they're very streamlined and one directional, it's just beautiful looking at the set pieces, and it's very impressive how the Vita handled that. Not to mention, the game does make use of some of the Vita features pretty well, such as the rear touchpad and the OLED touchscreen. So I really had a really good time playing Uncharted Golden Abyss for the Vita, which is why it's my second choice. And my first one, well, I guess it's obvious. It's the remaining game right here, which is Uncharted 3. And I just beat the game recently, and I just have to say it right off the bat. This would have been one of my all-time favorite games of all time if it wasn't for the gameplay. And I have to say that it's a shame that the game, I don't want to use the word ruined, but the game could have been so much better if the gameplay was more polished. This game knocks it out of the ballpark in terms of presentation and just visual, just visual presentation and over-the-top cinematic. It's basically this Hollywood type of production that puts you at the edge of your seat, and the action is non-stop, and the game is so fun because you travel a lot through different areas of countries in the world, and it also explores the story of young Nathan Drake, which I have to say, it's a great character. I love Nathan Drake. I think it's a very likable character, and that's just overall. It's not in this game, Uncharted 3. Just the overall series. I think his sense of humor, the way he interacts with the other characters, with Sully. I mean, I just love the characters in the Uncharted series. And the cool part about Uncharted 3 is that you get to explore the past of Nathan Drake and other characters such as Elena, and you get to see some other returning characters from Uncharted 2 such as Chloe, and really cool game and as far as story-wise, and the visual presentation is just amazing, and the overall over-the-top Hollywood-esque action is just amazing. But the gameplay, I mean, it feels like Naughty Dog had a budget and they threw all the budget into the graphics and presentation department. And they forgot about the actual action gameplay, how you control the game. I just don't understand how this game, which is the latest one in the series, has the worst gameplay controls. When you're aiming your weapon, it's so hard to aim. I don't know what it is about it. And in fact, I think the fans complained when the game came out, and Naughty Dog released a patch, but the patch didn't fully resolve the problems, and it's just really frustrating aiming at the enemies, and it's such a basic principle. I mean, the gameplay is such a basic part that it was frustrating at times. I do have to say that. But despite that, I mean, I do have to say that gameplay, it's very important, obviously, when you play games. But despite that major negative point, Uncharted 3 it's an amazing game. I really had a very good time playing it, And it's funny because before I played Uncharted 3, I already went with the mindset that Uncharted 2 was the best game and it was never going to be topped. But and that's based on the comments from other people and reviews and fans of the series. But I was surprised. I really enjoyed Uncharted 3 much more than any other entries in the series. If it wasn't for that gameplay thing, issue that I had, it would have been one of my all-time favorite games out there. So as far as the overall series, like I said, the main reason why I like the Uncharted games are the visual presentation, the classic treasure hunting storyline, and how they combine that with the characters, the sense of humor of Nathan Drake, Sully. They're just very fun characters to watch and listen to. And I'm really looking forward towards the future of the series. I'm hoping that Naughty Dog will continue somehow this franchise on the PlayStation 4, and I can't wait to see what they can do in terms of visual presentation. But Naughty Dog, if you're watching this, please put some of that budget into improving the gameplay and the action combat sequences, because if that's tweaked and perfected, then Naughty Dog, they're gonna be one of my all-time favorite developers. And Uncharted series, on itself, these games are already great, and if they have that little push, these games are gonna be up there near perfection, in my opinion. It's just such a fun third person shooter that it makes the PlayStation franchise stand out, because these are exclusive titles to the PlayStation consoles, and in my opinion, this is one of the strongest IPs out there now. So a very good reason to have a PlayStation 3, a very good reason to consider a PlayStation 4 in the future. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and please leave a comment in which games are your favorite in the series. And I guess I'll talk to you all later. See you later.